And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the FreshandFit Podcast, number one men's podcast in the world. We're joined with three special guests, George Gammon, Robert Kiyosaki, and Ken McElroy. We got a lot to talk about today, guys, when it comes to finance and the economy. Let's get into it, baby.
Let's go. We are back.
We are back, guys. What's up? Welcome to the FreshandFit Podcast, number one men's podcast in the fucking world. We got three special guests in the house, guys. So I'm going to just make one announcement. Patreon.com/FreshFit. Get all the behind the scenes content of us kicking out annoying ass bitches. But anyway, without further
Oh
ado,
my God.
all right.
Already.
Right there. But without further ado, guys, let's introduce the special guest in the fucking house. We got three guys on the panel that I admire and respect, man.
Listen, legends in this space, adding so much value, and they're here on the platform. Shout out to everyone here on the panel.
And for me, as a real estate investor myself, controlling quite a bit of properties now. I bought 8 properties, and it's, these guys inspired me. So this is huge for me, guys. And I know a lot of you guys out there are like, holy fuck. So we're going to go ahead. If you've been living under a rock, you don't know who these guys are. We're going to have them introduce themselves. So we'll start with George and work our way this way. Welcome back, George.
George, who are you, bro?
Thank you for having me. Just some guy on YouTube. I retired in 2012 and I got into macroeconomics, became passionate about it. And in 2019, I started a YouTube channel. Then in 2020, started the Rebel Capitalist Show, which is now a podcast. And we do Rebel Capitalist Live, which is a big conference that we're doing this weekend. And it's just all about investing and understanding the world of macroeconomics better and just kind of giving people the economic red pill is what Rollo and I talked about last night.
Rollo's on the house as well. Shout out to him.
Rollo, Sterling, and Justin as well.
Yeah, we got some special guests in the background, man. Shout out to them as well. Rollo, Tomasi, Sterling, Cooper.
An all-guy panel. Yeah. Rare.
Bunch of dudes in the house. Just chilling.
Uh-oh. All right.
The legend himself.
Robert Kiyosaki, 25 years ago, I wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I could see this financial crisis coming back then, but I didn't think it'd be this bad. But anyway, I'm happy to be here. I'm quite impressed with your studio.
Thank you.
Fantastic job. Thank you.
It's mostly Myron. I just like sit behind and record stuff. But yeah.
And Ken?
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for being on. First of all, I love your show. Gosh, I started buying real estate in the late 80s, right? Just out of college. I started managing them first, and then I started buying them. And since then, our company's been in business. My recent company, this is our 20th year. We've done about $3 billion in assets. That's office, multifamily, single-family condos, industrial, and
come again. You said
storage.
$3 billion?
Yeah.
Where am I living right now? Okay, lovely.
Yeah. So,
sheesh.
Yeah. So we got about 10,000 apartments right now, and do a lot of land development. And started my YouTube channel in 2019 when the pandemic hit. And I honestly, I didn't really have any time, so I was like, shit, I'm home. Might as well do it. Started it. And obviously a couple of the videos went viral. And the next thing I know, I'm here on your show.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's been fun. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, his YouTube channel is one of my secret weapons that I watch. You and Chris Kahn, man. And I also watched the Rich Dad Poor Dad channel as well. And the show you guys did last week was fantastic when you guys were breaking down where we are now, which leads me to my first question. Yeah. What is going on for someone out there that doesn't know? They just know inflation, gas prices. They don't really necessarily know what the hell's going on, though.
Yep.
They see what the engine's fucked up, but they don't know why the engine's messed up. We can start here and work our way there. Where are we right now in the market?
Yeah, so that's a fair question. So first of all, George is going to talk a lot more about this, but basically we're in asset bubbles all over the place. So it's in crypto, the stock market, certainly in real estate. So, and the normal real estate market for single family is, 4 to 6 months of inventory. That's normal. So everybody kind of forgets that. So like I live in Scottsdale, and there was a funny, the TV the gal on TV came out and she said, inventory's way up. It's up a third. Well, they were at a 10-day supply. Now they're at a 30-day supply. You know what I mean? So it's up a third. I was like, okay, went from 10 days to 30 days. It's still not healthy. Like what's healthy is 4 to 6 months. That's the average time it takes to buy something. So, we're far from any kind of a crash. That's for sure.
Okay. From a real estate perspective, or would you say overall?
I would say overall,
Okay.
I think there are definitely cities that are losing people, migration, right?
Okay.
There's no question around that. Seattle,
California.
I'm from Seattle, Portland, a lot of California, Chicago, New York, areas in New York, certainly. But, and then on the commercial side, which is pretty much where I hang out, there's definitely some price adjustments happening because of interest rates for sure. And I'm going to talk a lot about that at George's conference tomorrow, actually. So,
Yes.
But
that's
he's not talking about the stock market. He's talking about the real estate
The
market.
real estate
market.
Do you want to tell them that story about your buddies with the deposits?
Yeah.
That's
So,
pretty powerful.
100%. So, so here's what's happening. Like if you had something in escrow, say 60, 90 days ago, right? And it's all underwritten. So you're like, okay, this is what it's going to produce. The only missing piece was debt. Right. And you can't really
So
get
the price
debt.
of the debt.
Yeah, the price
so
of
what
the
he's saying is you got the cash flow. You're buying the cash flow. So Kenny's buying a $70 million apartment complex. So you get the financials and it's throwing off X amount of cash.
Mm-hmm.
So they're pricing the deal based on that cash.
Yep.
But if the interest rates go up, now all of a sudden your cost of debt goes up. That's going to
Bam.
decrease the cash flow.
Yes.
So you got to decrease your price. That's
Right.
what Kenny's saying.
Gotcha.
So the economics
I
change.
like to shout to you.
Yeah.
He's like,
George.
let me break this down further for you.
Yeah, because Ken is such an expert. And it's like, okay,
No.
the debt, everything. People might be like, well, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So, no,
George is
fantastic.
right. Yeah. So the cash flow we thought we were going to have is way down because the cost of the debt is way up. So what happens is real estate's getting repriced at the commercial level because, buyers buy on cash flow.
Yeah.
And when cash flow is lower, then they're going to pay less. So it's really, so that's happening right now. And, with these rising interest rates. So it's going to be interesting to see, how much that impacts things.
Yeah. And I
And
think
you
the
want to tell them that
audience.
story?
Oh, go,
We
Please.
just got back from Belize.
Mhm.
Kenny and I were speaking at an event down there, and Kenny, we were on his plane, and he was talking about how a lot of his buddies are in the space,
Mhm.
and the interest rates have gone up so quickly, and how that's impacting a lot of the deals that are in escrow. And I think that when you told me that really was profound.
So what happens is, this is how out of control it got in my area. There would be 30, 40 bids on one project.
Whoa.
Mm.
Then it would go down to a best and final and all that. And the seller was really in a very good position. So you were having to put up 100,000, 500,000, even $1 million hard, non-refundable day one just to get the deal. So
Wow.
that's the space we just came out of. It's been that way for 2 years.
$1
Yeah.
million,
$1 million bucks.
non-refundable.
Non-refundable.
Yeah.
Cash.
We've done that multiple times, and so that's just to get a deal. Now, if there's a lot of value add to the deal, you do that deal. But at the time, we didn't have to worry about these interest rates.
Yeah.
So what's happened is the interest rates have changed so much, and the cash flow has been adjusted so much because of that people are walking away from their deposits right now on the commercial stuff
Mhm.
because they're like, you know what, we'd rather walk from $500,000
Wow.
than buy this project
Wow.
because the economics have changed so much.
Wow.
That's
Oh,
how
that's
much.
free
That's
money.
how much the Fed raising interest rates matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the commercial side, as I'm a residential guy. I'm not advanced enough to get into commercial. I'm working on commercial, but I have 8 residential property myself. And what I notice is they're more concerned with the actual buyer, like your credit history, your personal background,
Correct.
versus on the commercial side, they're more concerned with like
Cash flow.
Yes.
How much money is it going to make? Okay, your credit isn't that great. It doesn't matter. You're buying a fantastic property that's going to cash flow. You're going to be able to handle the debt,
Yep.
no problem.
Yep.
So I think the audience needs to understand that when it's commercial, it's another game. You know what I mean?
And you also have to think about the domino effect there, because if that deal doesn't go through, now all of a sudden they're employing a lot fewer people to do like the rehab on each one of these units.
Yeah.
And that trickles down throughout the entire economy,
Mhm.
and that brings down aggregate demand or consumption. And that's definitely going to impact GDP. I bet we can get into that later.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Hmm.
Okay.
All right.
What's your thoughts on what's going on right now
Current market.
with current market and everything like that?
Well, I'm the old guy here. I've seen them go up and down for years,
Mm-hmm.
but we're coming out of the longest bull market in history.
Okay.
And this created, and the 2008 crash was only a real estate crash. This next crash is going to be the everything crash.
Mm.
So it's really, really big. Now, the good news is that's when we make the most money.
Yeah.
And, You know, I started my whole thing because I keep asking people, what does school teach you about money? The answer was nothing. And so that's why most people are afraid. So when I started investing, interest rates were like 12%. And I hear all you guys wimping about 5%. So,
You wussies. Spite a damn thing.
I'm going, Jesus, you guys. But the point here is this: the interest rate doesn't make any difference if the deal is good.
Mhm.
And so Kenny and I have been investing. You know, I kind of make my money in my business, but I need debt. And so let's say I make $1 million or 100,000, just zeros, you know. So Kenny then places my money for me in his property. So let's say it's $1 million to keep it simple. $1 million. He steps up to $5 million
With the debt.
with the debt.
Yeah. So you put down $1
property.
million of your own dollars, and the bank gives you another 4
million.
Correct.
And debt is tax-free money.
Yep.
And so this guy's like Dave Ramsey, who's a friend of mine, says live debt-free. Well, that to me, that's ridiculous. You know, I mean, debt is tax-free money. That's how I look at it. So I give it to Kenny, and then we apply the tax laws to it: appreciation, depreciation, amortization. So I pay no taxes. So we keep laughing at the guys who live in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico!
If you were a real investor, you don't have to live in Puerto Rico to pay no taxes.
Wow.
Because America is really a tax-free. It was started as a tax-free nation in 1773 with the Boston Tea Party.
Yeah.
And so this AOC gets up there and says, tax the rich. Well, she's a communist. You know what I mean? Only communists want you to pay taxes. We don't pay taxes legally.
Yeah.
And I say that legally simply because I don't want to go to jail and be somebody's
Of course.
boyfriend. You know what I mean?
Not a second time.
Hey, $20 is $20.
So we can tell Logan Paul come back to the U.S., right?
Well, the thing is that like what I've noticed, and you just literally had like a connection right now in my head. A lot of these influencers, they don't buy real estate. They buy crypto.
Crypto, you're right.
They maybe invest somewhat back into their business or whatever, but they don't necessarily buy hard assets like real estate. So a lot of them have to do what? Go to Puerto Rico to kind of, lower their tax offset their tax liability.
Logan Paul, we need you back in America, brother. We got you. Robert has your back.
Sorry, go
So
ahead.
when I say people, and I had a rich dad, who never went to school, and a poor dad was a PhD from Stanford and all that. They don't know anything about money. So my rich dad started teaching me about money as a kid. And that's why I keep asking people, what does school teach you about money? The answer is nothing. And then we have these guys with PhDs, and I think they're really smart because they went to school. And that's from my charming personality. I ran into a big Karen the other night at a bar.
Not the Karen.
Yeah, we ain't 5 minutes into the show already.
Let's
Karen
go.
2.0.
I mean, she's a Rollo Tomasi fan,
Yeah.
I'm sure she was. I'm sure she was. Yeah.
But
She wasn't monkey branching either.
She doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
So she comes up to me and she's a big Karen.
Yeah.
And
Man, the harpoons.
She says, do you realize I'm a school teacher with a master's degree?
Oh God.
I mean, that's the worst thing she could say to me because
know
I
who
know
I
she's
am?
stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, what does school teach you about money? Nothing. But the trouble is they think they're smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. When you think you're smart and you're not, that's the problem. So my lesson to everybody listening, be careful who you listen to. Because when it comes to money, everybody thinks they're an expert. But the reason I hang out with Kenny and George is because they are. And I learn from these guys.
Yeah.
So that's really the best lesson I can give people is be careful who your teachers are.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And I watch all three of you guys because there's always someone that knows more than you, and coming from myself as a guy, and I'll tell the audience this real fast. Guys, I used to work for the government, right? As you guys know, I used to be a special agent of Homeland Security, right? And, I was making, 100 grand, 120 grand per year. And I was paying like 30, 40K in taxes. Then I became an entrepreneur, started figuring out real estate, etc. Pretty much like 10x the money, and I'm paying the same amount of taxes now. And that's when it hit me. This is how the fucking wealthy stay wealthy.
Yeah.
Because they're able to procure assets that give them the ability to mitigate their tax liability. And then bam, they're able to make more money, pay less in taxes. And there's people out there, like you look at like Donald Trump or whatever, people want to talk shit about him.
Yep.
He's a genius. He's able to pretty much avoid taxes legally by creating jobs, creating real estate, being able to, create a cornerstone for the American economy. And this is how entrepreneurs and real estate investors and business owners end up paying less taxes than their employees.
Yeah. Robert, you made a good point. There's no I in team. So you having a team around you that, especially in the area, they know where to go and what to do. So it works out.
Yeah, man. This is a power team right here, man. So
now, as I learned in school that everything they teach you in school, don't do.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
no, that's true. Though. That's so true.
I'm serious because I was a dumb shit. I still am a dumb shit. I mean, we all think differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sat next to the smart girl.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in school that's called cheating. In the real world, it's called cooperation. So the way I always have a team around me.
Yeah.
Accountants, attorneys. Kenny is my lead dog because I place money with him.
Yeah.
Because I need the debt.
Yeah.
I need, if I make $1 million, I've got to have $5 million of debt.
Yeah.
And that drives people crazy. They go, why? I mean, that's what I do, right?
Yeah, 100%. And to your point,
yeah.
I remember going through school, it was like the tax code, but then I realized really what it is, it's a roadmap. It like tells you how to avoid tax legally.
Right.
Yeah. That's actually how you have to look at it.
That's how
you have to go, okay, I see they want oil drilling here, or they want energy here, or they want housing, or they want, it basically tells you what they want.
Yeah.
And then it tells you how to get tax breaks from it.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, then you basically can design your business plan around that. Yeah. And that's how you can do it.
Okay, so one more thing.
No, please.
Is everything you pay taxes on is what the Fed puts you in.
Bam.
Okay, so when they say don't fight the Fed, that's propaganda. That's smoke.
Mm-hmm.
What the Fed cannot print oil, so I invest in oil.
Bam.
The Fed cannot grow cattle, so I invest in cattle. The Fed cannot grow apartment buildings, so I invest with Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
Everything the Fed touches turns to tax.
Yeah.
There you go.
What's interesting about that as well is that for some reason the C students can figure that out, but the A students cannot.
Yeah.
What you're seeing in front of you is 3 guys that almost flunked out of high school. So quite literally. In fact, Kenny, you want to tell them what's on your license plate?
Yeah, my Ferrari C student.
Really?
100%.
There you go.
Mine said my Ferrari is C+.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And the scary part too is that when I was working for the government, they don't teach you this stuff. They tell you dump your money in your thrift savings plan, aka your 401k, and wait for 40 years, work for 40 hours a week, wait for 40 years, and you'll be able to touch this money. They don't teach you about, hey, invest in assets now so that you can lower your tax liability. They tell you get your tax liability down by investing in a 401k that they benefit from.
No, that's what Robert's been saying for years.
Yeah.
I mean, Robert, what's your thing when you go up on stage? You always say, invest your money, and people always follow, right? And they repeat like what you're going to say prior to you saying it.
The mantra, the brainwash is go to school, get a job, pay taxes, save money, buy a house because a house is an asset, get out of debt, and invest in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs.
Yes.
That is punishment.
Yeah.
We do none of that.
Yeah.
We do none of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to then choose your teachers wisely.
Yeah.
And that's why when Kenny and I met 25 years ago, I said, because, when I'm like you, I can handle residential.
Yeah.
But he handles the bigger projects.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's especially the larger projects because I need more debt.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing is that if you're someone that wants to make it in life, understand that you don't know everything, right? You're only as smart as you know. But other people, for example, experts in spaces like Ken here and George, they know way more than I do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to them for help because they know more.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best pieces of advice I ever received was know what you don't know.
Mm.
It sounds very simple, but if you think about it, it's very profound.
It is. Yeah. So, George, what's your take on Robert? Did you have anything else you want to add as far as what you see right now?
What you're saying is what's more dangerous is when somebody thinks they're smart and they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that Karen that came up to me and she goes, I have a master's degree.
I'm a PhD.
I was supposed to get sexually stimulated about that.
Exactly. When these girls are they run around and
I'm independent.
I'm a PhD.
I'm a boss baby.
Yeah.
Look at me.
And you're just like, okay, nobody cares. And they're like, but
I'm a PhD.
And you're like, so who cares?
I have a question, just real quick. Does it matter, right, for you if someone has a degree or not, terms for dating? I'm just curious, real quick. Does it matter?
Oh, no.
Doesn't matter.
Of course not.
Doesn't matter.
Not in the least.
Cool. That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know. Me either.
So 3 rich guys at the table telling you how they don't give a fuck. Okay, fantastic.
Is it a disadvantage?
Oh, it's a good
No,
question.
I wouldn't hold
good
it
ones?
against them.
It depends on the person, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they're hiding behind it, yes. That, yeah.
Good point,
If they're, you know,
Kenny, I need you on my show.
If it's on their wall,
It's on the wall.
I agree with that because a girl that thinks it matters is a problem.
that's right.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I know one thing that your audience may also find valuable is that the three people that are maybe, sitting here on this live stream, they say, oh, these guys might have it all figured out. Or that might be what some of your audience members are saying. But in reality, you won't find three people on the planet Earth that are always trying to learn more and as aggressively as we are. Robert's 75 years old, and it just astonishes me every single time that, he texts me at, midnight or something like that because he just read a new book or saw a new YouTube video.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to increase his learning. The very first Rebel Capitalist Live conference I had the opportunity to introduce him to now one of our good friends. His name is Jeff Snyder, who is an expert on the repo market and the global monetary system. And Robert just sat and talked with him for probably an hour straight in the green room, just trying to understand the global monetary system better and better and better and better.
Yeah.
And so this is someone who's doing that you would look at and say, well, that guy's got it all figured out. He's got his private jet. He's got his money. He's got all these things, but he's still trying to constantly learn.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that brings me to you, George. What's your view on what's going on right now as far as the current market and everything? And it's always changing. The Fed just literally had an announcement a couple days ago. So
yeah, I think it goes back to this Lenin quote that I've been using quite often. And he said there are decades that go by where nothing happens, and there's weeks that go by when decades happen. And
Great, that's
I think
profound,
that's really what we're living through right now in 2022 as far as the economy. Unprecedented. I mean, the Fed just raised 75 basis points.
Yeah.
I don't think they've done that for probably 30 or 40 years. We're going into what is most likely a recession. And what is unique about this is that it's an inflationary recession. In the past, we'd have a recession where inflation was actually going down, so they could come in and, quote unquote, print money and try to prop up the economy. But now they're in a very difficult position because anything they do may make the problem even worse. And now we've got a supply problem. We don't have a financial problem. We don't have a liquidity problem. We don't have enough oil. We don't have enough food. We don't have enough shelter. We don't have enough stuff. And to Robert's point, the Fed can print money, but they can't print stuff. So this crisis that we're going into potentially could be a lot different. And it could be, people are saying, even if we have a recession, it's probably going to be shallow. It's not going to be that long. I don't know. We've got to remember that it's only, there are no certainties. There are only probabilities.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at the probabilities, that they're actually higher, that if we go into a recession, it could be a lot more severe than maybe what we saw even during the GFC, because the Fed is backed up into a corner where all their tools will only exacerbate the problem. So some things that I would use to back that statement up is if you look at the yield curve. So there's different maturities on the treasury market. You've got a 4-week treasury, then it goes all the way out to a 30-year treasury.
Okay.
So at each point in that timeline, that treasury has a different interest rate.
Okay.
Right. So you would expect that the longer to maturity, meaning the longer someone is borrowing the money, the higher the interest rate would be because there's more risk.
Yeah.
What we've seen recently is an inversion of the yield curve to where the 2-year treasury, the interest rate is higher than the interest rate on the 10-year. That is very abnormal. And if you go back to 1950, pretty much 100% of the time when we get this inversion of the yield curve, within 18 to 24 months, we get a recession.
Wow.
Right. So, but the problem with the Fed that they have is they've got high CPI. So the politicians know that they can't get reelected if the consumer,
and CPI stands for
the consumer price index.
Oh, yes,
if
yes.
the headline CPI is at 8.6, people are really angry about food prices and gas prices. They know their probability of being reelected is very low. So they meet with Jerome Powell, say, hey, I have to do something. So Jerome Powell believes in something, or the PhDs at the Fed believe in something called the Phillips curve. And this is basically, there's an inverse and this, their words, not mine, inverse relationship between the rate of unemployment and inflation. So as unemployment goes lower, that puts upward pressure on inflation.
Okay.
So if they want to decrease inflation, well, they've got to increase the unemployment rate. Usually they would do this by taking interest rates and normalizing them. The problem there is that normalizing Fed funds, which is their overnight rate, is like 4 or 5%. They can't do that because that would completely implode the economy because the debts are so high. So I just used a chart in one of my recent whiteboard videos that shows the net worth in aggregate total of Americans relative to GDP. So as a percentage.
Okay.
If you go back to 1980, when Paul Volcker raised rates to squash inflation, he raised them up to 18%.
Yeah.
When he did that, the net worth of Americans in aggregate total, about 300% of GDP. Okay. Now it's over 600%.
Okay.
Of GDP.
Damn.
So the Fed looks at this and says, aha, what we can do to bring down the CPI, or in other words, bring up the unemployment rate, instead of normalizing rates, we can bring asset prices down.
Okay.
So they're doing that through expectations policy. They're doing that slightly by raising rates, but let's remember that rates are still only 150 basis points. And look at how much damage it's already doing to the economy.
Yeah.
You know, Kenny's talking about all these deals that are collapsing.
People walking away from $1 million.
The cap rates going up, the price is going down, and this is with interest rates just going from 75 basis points up to 150. What happens if they normalize and go to 5%? And that's when the whole house of cards come down. So I think they're trying to bring down asset prices without imploding the economy, or they're trying to bring down inflation through asset prices so they don't implode the economy. And they're doing this through quantitative tightening, which is the opposite of quantitative easing. They're trying to reduce the size of their balance sheet, and they're trying to talk tough. Right, we're going to get tough on inflation. And then you always hear them mention Paul Volcker. And they're doing that so the market believes that they're going to continue to raise interest rates, even though they can't to a certain level, to, again, bring down those asset prices, increase unemployment, to bring down the CPI. This is their game. And this is why, or one of the main reasons, you see cryptocurrency going from a $3 trillion market cap to an $800 billion market cap within the span of what? 2 months or something like that. And you could see the same thing with the stock market. And gradually, over time, you could see the same thing with residential. Now, it starts with commercial, like Kenny was saying. But will that trickle down to residential? I don't know. I think you've got to compartmentalize things. But that's what I think your audience needs to be cognizant of over the next 6 months to a year.
And I think this thing saving residential is that we're about 5 million homes short. The starter family home, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath is like that starter family home that we're significantly down under because people are prioritizing commercial properties to build. So they're not building, those starter homes.
Because you can't make any money there.
Can't make any money.
So there's definitely a supply side problem.
Which is good for real estate on the residential side if you want to do starter homes.
Right, but you've got to also acknowledge the demand side of the equation.
Yes.
Because it's supply and demand. So it is possible for them to bring down aggregate demand to a level to where nominal prices would still come down, even though there's historically low supply. It's just, will they take rates that high? They're using a blunt instrument. Right. This is not an X-Acto knife. They're just trying to take a sledgehammer to this and keep their fingers crossed. So, by bringing down asset prices and CPI, does that break the market to the point where that will decrease aggregate demand for the residential homes to bring down nominal prices, which is what they don't want to do? I don't know. We'll have to see how this plays out. But the average investor just needs to know that right now there's a tremendous amount of risk in asset prices. And you just have to set up your portfolio to make sure that you're limiting your downside. So when we come out of whatever we go into, and again, there are no certainties, only probabilities. But when we come out of this, if we go into a recession, that they're going to be prepared to take advantage of the massive opportunities which present themselves, which is exactly what Kenny and Robert did during the GFC. And Ken, I don't know if you want to tell that story, but they made hundreds of millions of dollars.
This is a 3-beer discussion, I think. So what we did in 2008 is the fundamentals are quite different, obviously, back then. But the one thing I do want to say is residential, single family, and multifamily are very different. Because it's it's counter-cyclical. In other words, if people are coming out of single family housing because of affordability, or they can't buy it because the rates are going up and the prices are going up, they're actually going into the rental side of the multi. So
and you made a video on this, which was fantastic, by the way.
They're very, very different. So what happened in 2008, kind of similar. 2008, people lost their houses for different reasons, right? They you could fog a mirror and get a loan and pretty much buy a home, right? I mean, when the checker at Target is talking to me about I'm a realtor and I'm buying real estate, I'm like, okay.
That's how it was too. That's how it was.
Anybody, bro.
It's time to get the hell out.
2008.
So boom, it popped. We all know what happened is they all flooded into rentals, into multifamily, right? So they moved out of single family into multifamily. The U.S. was on sale at that point, right? Everything was going back to the banks, and also the banks were very wounded. So what I did is I went up to Canada, and we raised money through what's called the RSP. Basically, their 401k. It's the retirement savings plan, the RSP. We went up and put together a series of $100 million funds, and we started buying real estate, multifamily in Texas. And we started buying 200, 300 unit projects. We still own those today.
Yeah.
But so we waited for them to correct. We bought them from the bank. We got the money from a different country because at the time the dollar was imploding and the Canadian dollar was rising as a result of the U.S. dollar going down. So
those Canadian investors had more purchasing power.
Right.
Wow. You got to understand the genius. Kenny's just kind of glossing over it, but this is pure genius.
Yeah. You know what? So literally the dollar's going down. So you went up to Canada,
right.
got a bunch of investors.
Because their purchasing power was
stronger.
They're like, the U.S. is on sale. Our dollar is really strong. I'm like, come on over.
Wow.
And this is why the Canadians are buying so much real estate here.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. It's literally genius. So you go and get investors in Canada to fund your projects.
Yes.
And bam, you're able to use a stronger dollar to purchase that stuff back then.
So that's what I did while the banks were kind of repairing their balance sheets during that period of time. And we still own all those buildings because I'm a buy and hold guy. So, back when I was in my 30s, I was, doing condo projects and all that kind of stuff and had a lot of capital gains. And at the end of it, after 10 years, I'm like, man, I made a lot of money, but I paid a lot of tax. And I got to do it again. So that's when Robert and I met. And I said, okay, it's time for passive income strategy and getting that recurring revenue. And so, but George is right.
And you're in Dallas, which is like a crazy market. I was just there recently. I watched one of your videos and you were talking about how you're doing projects in Dallas. And I was like, let me start looking at Dallas. And I'm actually looking at a house right now that thanks to you. So there.
Yeah. Dallas is,
it's growing.
If you really look at what's happening there from an employment standpoint, from a migration standpoint, I think the fundamentals in most of Texas are pretty good.
Yeah.
Kenny, one thing.
If I can make a suggestion,
Yeah, please.
We all start small. And Kenny has a book. He has 3 books, ABCs of Real Estate. I start with that. I think the biggest mistake that people make is to go get a real estate license. And you don't learn anything about real estate investing.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different world. And I mean, this especially when, I'm coming from a realtor and then they want to sell me real estate. They don't know anything about investing. They might be good looking, fresh and fit.
Fresh and fit, baby.
They got nothing up here.
Yeah.
So I would get Kenny's book that start with the ABCs.
Yeah.
And the key to his success is property management.
Yeah.
You see, what stocks have over real estate is you don't have to manage the stock.
Yeah.
And then he has ABCs of property management and then the advanced guide. And that's where we use debt to finance out equity. Because when I started off, everybody was flipping property.
Yeah.
That's the most stupid thing you can do because let's say you buy a property for $100,000, you flip it for $200,000. Well, you have capital gains, tax.
Yep.
The way we do it is we make millions and pay no tax.
Yep.
And that's capitalism.
Yeah, but you got to drill
small.
down on that a little
more.
Please,
go ahead.
Because I think this is something that would kind of give you an epiphany moment along with a lot of people in your audience that are interested in real estate.
We're here to learn, baby.
And Kenny can explain this because this is his business model better than I can. But basically what most people do when they get a capital gain on their house or their real estate is they go ahead and sell it because they want to realize that gain and they want to use that money for something else, but then they have to pay tax on that, right? Usually it's short-term, long-term cap gains. But what Kenny does is he allows that appreciation to happen. And instead of selling the asset, he'll borrow against the asset to take that cash out tax-free to use it to buy something else instead of selling the property. And this is what most people get wrong.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why, he's extremely insulated, even if we do have a downturn, because he's buying cash flow. He's buying a business that's just throwing off cash. He's not buying something that has to go up in value in order to perform. So, and most people don't get that component on they understand the depreciation side of real estate and how to pay no tax, but they don't understand having to extract equity
Yeah.
to use to purchase something else. So
The
it's not a
appreciation.
taxable event. You
Yeah.
want to,
Yeah. So when you sell anything, there's a taxable event.
Mm.
So, my strategy is don't sell. So, we're now on 2, 3, even 4 cash out refinances on the same project. So some of those,
Holy shit.
yeah. So think about this. Like in 08, we bought all those projects I was talking about, let's say, with our Texas cash. Well, it was not a value add time in 08, 09. The banks were still licking their wounds and deals were still going back to banks. At around 2012, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, it's time to value add, right? So all of a
meaning
sudden,
fix them up to increase
yeah,
rents.
you improve them, increase the rents, go back to the bank, do a cash out refi. At the same time, rates were going down. So that was luck, but rates were going down during this period of time. Then we did it again in 2016, and now we did it again in 2021. So what you do is you just keep harvesting the equity from a project, and you never sell it. And it's because it's a cash out refinance. It's paid back because it's debt. It's tax free.
Yeah.
Literally tax free. And the tenants continue just to pay that off. So you just harvest. And that is the model to wealth.
Yeah.
right.
So question real quick. From the cash out refinance, right? The money you get from that's tax free. What do you do with it normally?
So that's
Reinvesting.
Reinvest. Yeah.
Okay.
So we start off with let's call it the Canadian group, right? And also some other syndication that we did around during that time. Well, then as you start to harvest that money, that's when you start to expand because you're using their money again. It's free money back from the bank, and you're reinvesting it into bigger and bigger projects all over the place. And that's when we started to grow significantly like this.
And when I met Kenny 25 years ago, he's one of everybody was saying, do you flip property? I said, no, because if I flip the property, I have a tax consequence. So I met Kenny. He says, no, we don't do that. I said, that's my man. So we have we've never sold, have we?
No.
Wow.
I've sold a few, but hardly.
We have 10,000 units, and we just keep rolling the debt and equity going out of it via debt. And we get richer and richer and richer. Our cash flow keeps coming up. That's why, please, don't try this without reading his books, the ABCs of real estate property, real simple book, and then the property management, because property management is the key.
Yeah, obviously you guys can't. You got to see the deal. So all great deals start in your mind, right? Every single one.
And the third is the advance refinance out. So that's how we get away from the flipping guys.
Yeah, I'm not selling anymore. I'm not selling it anymore.
Just hold, man, hold. It's a great inflation hedge too.
Yeah,
especially now with what's happening. I'm building 6 projects right now in Arizona. We're a little over $200 million worth of construction, and we're getting our ass handed to us because of the supply chain issues.
Materials and stuff.
Yeah. So obviously we buy the land a couple of years ago. You work on it, and it's a process to build. Yeah. But the point is now we're getting our butts handed to us on lumber and wire and concrete and all those other things. So the point is all the materials that it costs to build something are going sky high, and so that's why I don't think we're gonna have affordable housing for a while.
Yeah, because I had a quote for a renovation on some units, right, and it was like $25K. Yeah, this was maybe 5 months ago. I did the same renovation quote again with the same guy. $50K. I'm like, holy crap! It jumped up so much.
And let me say this real fast, just so people kind of understand the power, because I don't want people to kind of gloss over what Kenny just said. Yeah. And Robert with the cash out refinance. So for an example, let's say you buy a house for $100,000, guys, right? You only put down $20,000. You put 20% down. The bank gives you the other $80,000. Okay. Then
leverage.
You put $20,000 into the property to fix it up, which is value add, which is what Kenny was discussing. That property now goes up to $200,000. Then you can go ahead and do a cash out refinance, and you could pull out 70% a lot of the time is what it's going to be. Yep. So let's say it's worth $200,000, right? So easy numbers.
140.
You get $140,000. That $140,000 that you get out of that property you purchase, guys. Remember, you only put in about $40,000 of your own money into the deal. Now you're getting $140,000 out. You can take that $140 tax free, which is the key,
Yeah.
and roll it into buying another asset that's going to make you more money.
And
This is how the
your
wealthy stay
tenant pays
wealthy.
that off.
And your
Yes.
tenant pays it off, because this new debt you acquired with the cash out refinance, you ain't paying it. Your tenants are.
Right.
So why not continue to do that and buy and hold? So that's why strategy is so powerful, guys. And I just want to show you kind of from a nominal perspective how that works.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so you're saying stop buying Lambos?
Yeah.
No, buy the real estate to pay for the Lambo.
Please.
No. When I want to, I love Ferraris. I had the Gallardo, the Lambo, beautiful car, fast, nice noise.
Lambo voice.
But yeah, but every time I needed a new Ferrari,
Mhm.
I would just call Kenny up. So I'd say, Kenny, I need a Ferrari.
True story.
No, this is true. So he buys this. So let's say it's $50K. I could have put a down payment on a $500,000 Ferrari.
Yeah.
But I give Kenny the $50,000 instead.
Exactly.
He buys a property. The cash flow from the property buys the Ferrari.
There you go.
That's what we're fucking guys.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I was about to buy cars
This is how the
tomorrow.
wealthy do it, baby.
Hold on.
I'm telling you, I got another story you'll love.
Yeah.
I saw a billboard, a regular billboard with two sides, right? It's called static, two sides of a billboard. I said, that could be digital. So I bought the billboard for $400,000,
Mhm.
put a digital on there for $150,000, and I just sold it to Clear Channel for $1.5 million, which bought me another Ferrari.
Oh my
God. So you can do this. It's what you see. Like
Yeah.
for me, I was like, okay, that's advertiser, one on each side.
Yeah.
If I put basically it's two big screen TVs, I could do 4 ads on each side, 15 seconds each, and I could quadruple the revenue on this billboard, which of course turned into value, and Clear Channel just bought it from us. So that's how you make money. That's how you pay for stuff. That's how I always look at things.
Ken, I know we
Your
just met.
assets, your assets. Your assets buy your liabilities.
Yeah.
Ken, I know we just met, right? But likewise, can I give you my money? You give me a Lamborghini, please. I've been spending my hard-earned cash, man.
And I gotta say thank you to Robert, because
Yeah.
I learned that from reading your book back in 2018 when I was still working for the government. This idea where you need to take your earned income and put it into assets. Those assets pay you back a dividend. That dividend is what you can use to buy the stupid shit. Like this Rolex I have, guys, I bought off of passive income from my properties. I didn't buy it off of earned income. I bought it off of passive income. And I think even if someone can understand just that basic concept, it's going to make you change the way you perceive money, you perceive assets, and you perceive liabilities.
Well, let me just say this, but so Kenny's car, his Ferrari as C student. I wanted C- to beat him.
It's the truth. You go like, can't believe he got that.
But
Like,
some son of a bitch got C-, so I had to take C+.
That's funny.
But it's just an FU to the school system.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
It is.
They
It
don't
is.
teach you this in school.
No.
Like I literally, my entire life, I went through college. I avoided drugs. I went to the, really made sure to be that model class citizen, get my security clearance, work for the government, be a good guy, which I still do to this day, obviously,
Yeah,
right?
it's good.
You live a certain
good
lifestyle.
character.
But they don't teach you about how to earn money and save money and be able to actually create wealth. They teach you how to just kind of make it.
Yeah, barely make it.
Barely make it. Because $100,000 nowadays, man, is not that much money.
What's the job?
Correct.
Just over broke.
Yeah. That's
So
what it
it's
is.
funny.
Yeah.
At my old job, right, I had a license plate on my Toyota Corolla. It says CEO Life, right? They laughed at me making jokes. 5 years later, it's on a Lambo now.
nice.
But my
There you
mentor,
go.
he has a license plate that says no degree, which is funny as hell too.
I love it.
Yeah, it's very true. When I retired in 2012, I didn't know anything about investing. I didn't know anything about macro. I didn't know what the Fed was. I didn't know what the yield curve, nothing. But I knew that I had X amount of money in savings. And I'm like, I need to buy something that pays me enough to own it to cover my monthly expenses.
Bam.
So I don't draw down my savings, and that buys me time to figure out what I want to do.
Mm.
So that was my number one priority is get my money working for me to the point where it would pay my monthly expenses.
Mhm.
So I'm not having to work to pay my monthly expenses. My money is working for me to do that.
Bam. And Ken, you were telling that story about the Texas investing. You didn't get to finish that? Yeah, right.
So so anyway,
Then I got a question after for you guys.
we were talking about this last night. Robert and I went to the Versace mansion, had a great dinner. We were talking about the velocity of money.
Yeah.
So what happens, what people don't understand is that once you get that money for that first one and you create value, like you did for your Rolex or whatever it is, you start to roll it. I said, I'm going to go back and take a look at like when you first invested with me and see how far it's gone. Because that first 200 grand or whatever, invested, I can't remember the number. It's grown significantly tax-free through a number of different projects in the 20 years plus that we've met each other. And that, I think a lot of people don't think about. After that first project, you actually have your money back.
You do.
100% it's back. But you still own the project. And so you just keep rolling it and rolling it and rolling it. And what happens is it's the power of compound.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. It's that's it.
We control 10,000 units. But the cash keeps coming in from my businesses.
Bam.
I got to keep calling him up or my other friends up. I need more debt.
Yeah.
And you see what people are telling you is get out of debt.
Yeah.
Rather than how do I use debt to buy another asset? The asset throws off more cash flow than I refinance out again.
Bam.
And what was happening since 2008, the interest rates kept coming down and we kept getting richer and richer and richer and richer.
Yeah.
And it's capitalism at its best. And so that's why your friends are most important right now.
Yeah.
And don't listen to real estate agents. If they knew what they were doing, they wouldn't be real estate agents.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
Like, you'll talk about real estate, right? And they'll be like, hey, do you have your license? I'm like, no, I'm an investor. It's like, you need your license? Like, no, you don't.
Hell no, you don't.
You really don't.
No, you're right.
The license gets in the way.
Yeah, and to take it to, I think, the next level is once you kind of understand the real estate game, if you can overlay a good understanding or level of comprehension around macroeconomics, that just gives you an even greater edge. Because then you understand what Kenny and Robert are referring to, but then you can also say, okay, where are we in the cycle? And therefore, how much, if I'm taking out equity, should I do that at a 40% LTV? Should I do that at a 90% LTV? As far as all this cash flow that I have coming in, should I just kind of park that on the sidelines right now to take advantage of some opportunities if we go into a recession? And that's what Kenny does extremely, extremely well. So a lot of guys are real estate guys. Now I would say Kenny is just properly legit. A lot of guys claim they're real estate. They're not managing $3 billion. Right.
Exactly.
So Kenny's, but why has he got to that point? Because he's been able to leverage not only the edge he has with the knowledge of his business, but also understanding the macroeconomics and all of these cross currents that are happening with the dollar, with the Federal Reserve, with quantitative easing, with the government coming in and deficit spending to the tune of $5 trillion in 2020, potentially a central bank digital currency, and then also the yield curve. So he's able to take his knowledge at a local level or within his business and layer over that understanding of macro, which gives him an even more significant edge over his competition. And that, I think, is crucial for your viewers to really understand.
I'll add to that.
Yeah.
A perfect example you gave on a video that you made was buying B-class properties, not A.
Yes.
And the reason why is in a good school district.
Yeah,
and the reason why is because the people that can't afford a home necessarily in that area, well, they can afford the rent in that area.
Right.
Especially with the interest rates going up, they might not be able to buy a home, and they're not going to afford the luxury apartments, but they can go B or C, and you buy apartment complex in that area with a good school, which is critical because good schools is a big reason why people live in certain areas. I mean, hell, I remember when I worked for the government, everybody around me was older, and they moved out of the Miami-Dade County so that they can be in Broward or West Palm County simply for the schools.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when you have a good school district, that's a huge component as to the value of your property. And that was huge that you're saying, hey, good school district, B to C class type property, so that if the interest rates go up or people can't afford things, they can at least get into your property and you can be at a competitive rate.
Correct.
Well, that's what George means when he says understanding the market.
But now we know why school is useful.
One more thing,
Please.
Start small. Well, how big was your first?
My very first deal, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, I used my own money. And then, of course, I was out. And then, then you have to learn how to raise capital.
Yeah.
But that's when I was the most scared because I was like, okay, now I'm going to go out and do it with somebody else's.
Right.
And quite honestly, that's when I really started to get educated the most I could because I didn't want to manage other people's money and have to look them in the eye and say, hey, man, I lost it.
Yeah.
Guys,
sucks.
start small.
Yeah.
And my first property was $18,000, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. I bought it with a credit card.
Whoa. What?
I remember reading that in your book. Yeah.
Yeah. And but it blew my brain cells apart. I went, first of all, as George will test, there's no money in that credit card anyway.
I know.
There's
actually new
zero
money.
in there.
It's actually new money.
It's credit. And so I buy this $18,000 unit. It was in foreclosure on Maui.
Yeah.
On the beach. I mean, I wish, mistake, I sold it. That was a mistake I made. I should have kept it. But $18,000, I made $25 off of debt. My brain fried.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, what Kenny's advantage is, he can manage big properties.
Yeah.
So you and I are still small properties. You know what I mean? One bedroom, the houses and all this. So when I met Kenny, he had property management experience. That's why his book, Property Management, is crucial.
Yeah.
Because you can't expand if you were the guy fixing the toilet every other week. You
Yeah,
know?
you can't.
So it's all leveraging through your friends, but start small. That's
Yeah.
what it does.
And leveraging a team. I mean, what Robert does so well is he has his brand, the Rich Dad brand, but then he has the Rich Dad advisors as well. And he has a fleet of people around him that are absolute experts in what they do, which makes what he does even better.
But what's funny is they're
Kenny's
all
the same
A
thing.
students.
Yep. Students winning.
Yeah, but Kenny does the same thing. I mean, Kenny's got over 100 employees?
Yeah, 300. Yep.
300
Wow.
employees.
Yeah, fantastic.
And he's got people that are specialists in every single area, to the point where he doesn't know really what's going on as far as the nuance at every single property. He just understands kind of the bigger picture and dealing with investors and whatnot, because he's hired the right people that he can trust that can do that job even better than he can. It goes back to what I was saying. You got to know what you don't know.
So I have a question for you, George. Quick transition over, because we talked quite a bit about real estate. What's
Hold on. The supporters are chiming in a lot here.
Yeah.
Can you hold that real quick for them?
yeah.
They've been super chatting a lot.
Okay. Yeah. So, because I know we're short on time, so I'll read, guys. I'll read 100 and up.
Only.
So we got here, Motley Investor. I'm retired in Puerto Rico now, thanks to Hex.com. This guy, bro. I used to be predominantly into real estate, thanks to Robert Kiyosaki and his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Thank you, Robert, for flipping the switch in mind that I need to take my money to work for me, not hard work for my money.
There's not enough hours in the day to escape the rat race, being a
Okay.
wage slave.
I'm blind. Okay. And then what else do we got here?
Only 100, Chris, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Because, guys, I don't want to take away too much from the show.
Vaughn B.
The cash flow board game and quadrant book changed my life. Once I put my actual finance numbers into the cash flow balance sheet and became a millionaire in the game, I knew I could do it in real life. So done. Shout out to Robert Kiyosaki. And that's from Vaughn B. Thank you so much. And then we got, what else here? And guys, every single super chat's going to be shown on screen. It's just that we want to make sure that we get the most out of this because we're short on time.
Yeah.
School's in session. I've been passing on the gospel of Fresh Fit. Keep up the inspiration and knowledge. Fresh Fit fan forever. Guys, do me a quick favor and like the goddamn video because you guys aren't going to get content like this anywhere else. We teach you guys how to get girls, get money, fucking get in shape, everything, baby.
Yep.
The trifecta. No other YouTube channel helps you guys with this.
And how to network as well.
So, wonder what I was going to say. So we talked quite a bit about real estate, stock market. I know people want to know. What's the state of the stock market right now? Should people be running? Should people be selling, taking that money, putting it into real estate? Should they just hold it, grind it out? What's your thoughts on what's going on with that?
I think your time horizon matters.
Yeah.
So right now it's probably oversold.
Yeah.
So maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that might see a bounce. But again, I think you're battling an uphill battle with the Fed because they want asset prices to come down. So they're most likely going to be able to achieve that. So I would prefer to have more cash than I typically have, dry powder, to take advantage of asset prices that are lower in the future, stocks. All right. Now, but you've got to understand kind of the rules of the game. And so when I'm looking at stocks or housing or cryptocurrency, I'm never asking myself, what is the price going to do? I think that's a fool's game because it's really unknowable.
Yeah.
So you got to start by asking yourself questions that are knowable.
Yeah.
So that would be, is it cheap or is it expensive? That's something that Roll and I talked about yesterday as well.
Yeah.
So you can ask yourself, are stocks cheap right now? Well, just look at their historic PE ratio, right? Normally, let's say when they're cheap, it's at maybe 10.
Yeah.
And I'm just throwing it, they got to do the homework
Yeah.
themselves. If the S&P average PE ratio right now
And what
is
does PE
25,
stand for?
price to earnings.
Price to earnings.
Yeah. So basically, how much cash are they throwing off relative to the price that you have to pay for the company?
Bam. That's
So-
a gem right there for the people.
Yeah. If that's at an all-time high, or if that's still, let's say 25, and historically, the normal price, the reversion to the mean would be 15. Well, if it's 25, it's expensive.
Mhm.
If you see it dip below 15 to maybe 12 or 10. Okay, now all of a sudden it's cheap. And what's very easy are commodities. So right now I'm very bullish long term on commodities. I think they're probably overbought right now. So I'm not saying go out and buy. I'm not buying, but I've got them on a watch list because commodities run in super cycles of about 10 to 15 years. So I think we're in this beginning stages of a commodity super cycle that will most likely last till 2030 or 2035. So I'm just kind of sitting on the sidelines, a lot of cash, waiting for something to get cheap so I can go ahead and buy it when it does. And another thing that I think would be wise for your audience to consider is something I learned from Jim Rogers, who's my favorite investor of all time. He says, you always have to buy panic and sell hysteria, right? So a good example of that would be cryptocurrency, what we have seen. And, Justin was just saying that he bought some Bitcoin, and that may have been a good move. And I think, why did he buy it? He might not have been thinking in these terms, but if you saw Twitter, if you saw social media, if you saw everything that was happening, there was a lot of panic when Bitcoin got down to 17,000 or the 17 handle. Right?
Freaking out.
So even Ethereum too.
Absolutely. Under 1,000.
Under 1,000 for Ethereum.
So I'm not saying that was a right time to buy, but that was a time for me to get, my spidey senses go up. Wait a minute, I'm seeing panic here. Let's put it on the watch list. Let me pay more attention. Where when it was at 45, 50, 60, 65, you saw the complete opposite of that. You saw everyone. In fact, you were telling me a story last time I was here where you have to lend your buddies money just to buy lunch because they had all of their excess cash in cryptocurrency to where they couldn't even afford rent. And so when you're seeing that, because they're just doubling, tripling down because they think it's quote unquote going to the moon, everyone's doing it.
Don't go to the moon.
But then, okay, now we're in a hysteria mode. So if you're a long-term investor, that might be the time when you want to pull back and say, okay, I don't want to add to my position until I see a lot less hysteria and a lot more panic.
Bam.
And another thing I learned from Jim Rogers is what I perceived to be panic, I was always or often early. So as an example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, there were a lot of oil companies, Luke Oil, one that was a big producer in Russia. I thought to myself, okay, this is an example of panic. Their share price went from about 60 a share down to $6.
What?
Down to $6.
Holy shit.
So this obviously massive panic here. So I went in and bought. Now that ADR got frozen. Well, that's a whole completely different story. But I interviewed Jim Rogers about 2 weeks later because I wanted to ask him these questions. Because this is his forte. And he's been doing this for decades, since the 1970s.
Yeah, so he's seen all the different types of spikes, ups and downs.
All different countries, and you name it. And so I asked him if he invested in Russia, if he took advantage of that opportunity. And he said, no, I didn't. I thought initially he was going to say, because I was worried that the government would freeze you out. But he didn't say that. I said, well, why didn't you invest? And he says, because I didn't see enough panic. Wow. Whoa, that just hit me. I'm like, you didn't see enough. How could there possibly be more panic?
I was gonna say it went down like 90%.
From 60 to $6, right? And so the lesson there is, don't just look for panic and hysteria. Wait until it's like 10 times more than you would think, where everyone is just saying it'll never go up again. That's the worst thing I've ever owned. And another thing with cryptocurrency that I'm doing, just as an example, is I look at the Bitcoin conference. Right. What I'm doing is I'm trying to see how many people attended that in 2020. How many people attended in 2021. I like that. And then let's just say in 2020 or 2022 here, there were 15,000 people that attended. When it goes down to 1,000, I'm very interested now. Very interested.
This is going to sound dark, but someone was telling me, a friend of mine was saying, when people start offering themselves, that's when you go in and buy whatever they're offering themselves.
So there were a lot of stories about that over the weekend, Justin. I don't know if you saw that, but a lot of stories. Unfortunately, it's horrific. But kids, your age, that were
crypto guys
killing themselves because they lost so much in crypto.
You know what's funny about that? Like, a lot of friends that I have here in Miami, they're crypto heads all the way straight through. They put all the money in crypto. They say, this is the future. This is what's happening right now. I'm gonna put all my faith behind it. Problem is that when you do that, you're kind of giving up leverage because now that's all that you have. So Apple was when it went down, they're in the club popping bottles, having fun, getting yachts, buying cars. It's like living the life. Now that it's down, they're inside trying to find ways to make money because it's down. So
yeah, and so another thing that is an opportunity cost that you have to factor into the equation. If they have all their net worth in cryptocurrency and the stock market comes down, let's say collapses to where there is stuff like, let's just say Coca-Cola goes down to where it's paying an 8% dividend. Altria, I don't know if you guys know the cigarette maker, they banned, I think it was Juul, the e-cigarette.
Yes, they did like a day or two ago. They banned Juul.
So that stock just collapsed by probably 10 or 15%. That's an example of panic. Now, I'm not saying buy it. I'm just saying that might be an example of panic. But if you saw the whole stock market come down like it did during the GFC, like 50%, the S&P came down by 50%. And I remember Coca-Cola was trading like a 6 or 7% dividend yield. Well, that crypto investor wouldn't have any dry powder to go ahead and buy that share of Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
They have a huge opportunity cost right there.
Yeah.
And if they were to liquidate their position to buy Coca-Cola, they'd have to liquidate at a huge loss.
Not to mention the taxes.
Right, because maybe not with the loss, but they'd have to take a huge hit because cryptocurrency was trading as a risk asset. It was supposed to be a non-correlated, and hopefully in the future it will be, but currently it's not. So that's also something that your viewers really need to consider is if I do have all my eggs in one basket, I might not be able to take advantage of other opportunities. I mean, Kenny McElroy, guarantee you, is sitting on a lot of purchasing power right now, so he can take advantage of potential opportunities that he may see in the area of multifamily real estate.
That's a good point. Opportunity cost.
I might add something because this shit's over my head. You know what I mean? I am a C student. I don't do well in math and reading and all that, so I really am a dumb shit. So I've always invested in what I like to invest in. And remember, whatever the Fed can't print, I'll invest it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always wanted to be a Japanese breeding bull.
Breeding bull?
I'm on.
One of his own goals.
Isn't this
One of his own goals.
Do it.
Isn't this the Flesh and Tits show?
This is
I'll
tell you about a couple hours. It's definitely going to be the Flesh and Tits.
Yes, Rolo.
Yeah.
No, so the last investment I invested is my friend sold his business. Another guy never went to school, and he bought himself a ranch. And he says, "You want to invest in a breeding bull?" I went, God, I've always wanted to be a breeding bull. You know what I mean? So he bought this Wagyu, a real Japanese Wagyu bull.
What does one of them run?
$500,000.
What? One bull? Shraggy?
Well, get the cash flow. It's called sperm flow.
Oh.
Every time that baby comes,
Quite literally,
it's $1,000.
So Robert just underwrote a cow.
So then you buy the
He underwrote a cow.
You buy the cows, and every time they impregnate them with the whatever that stuff, the artificial insemination, all that crap.
Yeah.
So that's $1,000, but you own the cow, and the cow drops. That's more cash flow.
Is it a tax write-off?
No, it's not a write-off. I'm just saying, I'm a simple guy. I just understand breeding bulls.
No, that's really cool. I mean,
that's smart though.
So you buy the I guess the Wagyu bull is $500,000, but every time it inseminates someone, it's $1,000.
It's more than not every time.
That.
They can take one of his shots and chop it up, put it in cryon,
babies,
freeze it, and then they impregnate cows. So then I bought the bull, share with the bull, not own it, and then I buy the cows, and then I get the money from the sperm impregnating the cow, and then I get the calves.
It's like breeding dogs, basically.
Yeah.
By Frenchie, you breed the Frenchie, you sell the puppies, you make your money back times 10.
Exactly, same thing.
Wow.
They always
Bulls, though.
Yeah, no, I like that, bro. So for all you guys out there that want to get married and fucking buy the cow, right? Like fucking idiots. You know what I'm saying? No, buy the fucking bull. Milk it, all right? And make the goddamn money. All right? Continue to get the milk for free from these hoes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Fresh, I keep telling you to stud out hero.
You're right.
I keep telling you to stud out hero. It doesn't sound so crazy now, does it?
I'm still humping my leg and my girls.
No, man, that's fucking lit right
The
there.
point is, it's infinite.
Yeah.
Once you understand the basics of cash flow and debt and macro and how fake the Fed is, you wake up.
Yeah.
And then you start to study. I mean, that's all we do.
Yeah, yeah. And the one thing I would just encourage everybody to wait. You don't try to catch a falling knife. And everybody's trying to hit the bottom. You know, there's a process. And so every great deal I ever bought was negotiated with the bank that lent on it. Never before. So you just got to let that process sift through the way it needs to sift through. And maybe it gets bought. Doesn't really matter. But when it hits the bank, banks aren't supposed to own real estate. That's toxic.
Yeah, for real.
Get his books first, though. Please, please, please.
Yeah.
What he does is so far and above the average guy.
Yeah.
That's why I
Where
give
can I
him.
find the books? Amazon or?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I'll put the links below.
Okay, down below. All right, guys.
Yeah, and I think another great piece of advice that Kenny employs is you make your money on the buy side.
Yes.
I think an amateur usually tries to do the opposite, where the pros make the money on the buy
They
side.
want
not
the price
sell
to
side.
go up, but your profits made when you buy it.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't think the people like that was huge. The money is made when you buy, not when you sell.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And I think guys need to understand that. Like that right there is an investor mindset. Like, I bought this asset, the money is made now, versus when you sell it, yeah, you might get like a quick little, cash hit, whatever, you got to pay tax on it, whatever it may be. But if you like compound that over time, you would have made way more money.
Yeah. What I always say is I like to buy $1 for 50 cents instead of buying $1 for $3, hoping it goes to $5.
Bam.
That's
That's making money on the buy side.
I never want to sell it.
Yeah.
We want to take the cash flow or the sperm flow or whatever it is, or the calf flow.
Yeah, the cap.
I don't want to sell the asset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you never want to sell the asset, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's your wife one that time, you might have to sell that cow. But if it's like, if it's like a fucking bull making you money, then that's the one time you buy the goddamn cow.
Forget calf flow. My new word now is calf flow.
Yeah, there you
okay,
go.
get it right.
There you go. And we got
Deal
DLC right here. Really want to know podcast. Great conversation. Do your own research. Read the books. Do the work. Don't blame these brothers for your lack of research. Keep leading from the front, gentlemen. Thanks, brothers. I appreciate
Shout
that.
out to you, brother.
And to all you super chatters.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much, man. Like I said, I know we're only reading 100 and up, but every single chat's being shown. It's just I want to make sure you guys get this sauce because we got 3 legends on the panel right now, man.
Yeah,
so I want you
legendary.
to be able to get this.
Actually, fun fact. After this episode, I was going to do some things behind the scenes to make some deals happen, but now I'm changing because I was going to buy a Rolls-Royce truck. I'm not doing that now. I'm gonna go put in the property, cash out refinance, and then put it into another property. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Buy
good
the
for you.
property, buy the truck.
Yeah.
there you go.
Let the property buy the truck
Yes.
for
Let
you.
the cash flow from the property buy the truck.
Yeah.
So-
or to make your payments. So
Yes.
that's what they're saying,
It's a
right?
slush
So you
fund.
got a
It's a slush fund.
$2,000 a month payment.
Mhm.
Well, buy a property that throws off $2,000 a month, and then your
Correct.
renter is making that Rolls Royce payment for you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's what Myron does. He's smart.
It's worse than the worst thing they tell you: live below your means.
Yeah.
Screw them. Who wants to live below your means?
Facts.
You want to make you want to let your assets buy your luxuries.
Bam.
Just understand that.
Yeah.
There
So,
you go.
Robert, what are your thoughts on the stock market? I know you invest heavily into like our last discussion was silver, gold, precious metals, which I took into that, and I've been buying silver up, and I'm actually going to get some gold myself. I was actually asking George about it a couple weeks ago. What are your thoughts on the stock market? Are you still in? Or are you like, no, hell no?
Do we have a trigger warning?
I knew that. I knew. Go ahead.
I don't own any stocks.
Okay.
Or the reason is I don't have to.
Yep.
I can create my own assets. I don't need to buy the Feds or the Treasuries or Wall Street's assets.
Well said.
Fair enough. What are your thoughts on that? Ken,
Real estate.
As far as like, I know you're big in real estate.
Yeah.
Are you in the stock market? Is even
No,
worth? Yeah, okay.
no. And the reason is because I don't feel like you have any control in it. So I'm just putting my money in there, and I don't understand it enough. So, and I used to be, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I have a lot more control in businesses and real estate and things that cash flow. I can make more money in those things.
And I know more about being a Japanese breeding bull than Wall Street. I understand the same motivation.
Yeah. I have a couple stocks myself, but I agree with you guys that it's a very speculative asset, and yeah, I mean you can literally get your day fucked up in one day.
Yeah, I think what it
your whole
boils down
portfolio.
to is you have to have an edge.
Yeah.
Right. And very few people have an edge. If you don't know what your edge is, most likely you don't have one.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, if you're playing poker and you don't know who the sucker is at the table, it's most likely you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to, like, when I first learned to play blackjack, this was back in the early 2000s, I learned how to count cards. And I did so really to try to train my brain.
How many casinos you get kicked out of?
To think, wow.
This guy again. Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
That's other conversation. But you do that to get your brain to think in terms of probabilities. And this is extremely important because if you don't have a mathematical edge, and most people have actually a negative edge, so the longer they stay in the game, the longer they invest, the greater the likelihood that they go bust.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a mathematical edge, then what happens is the longer you stay in the game, the higher the odds are that you actually make money. So you've got to understand, A, do I have an edge? B, what is it? And if you can't look yourself in the mirror and define specifically what your edge is against all your other buddies in crypto or all your other buddies in real estate or even in gold or what have you, then most likely you don't have one. And that's going to get you in trouble over the long term.
That is so fucking critical because right as you were saying that, I was thinking in my head, okay, what's my edge in real estate? Well, thanks to Ken, I know that the interest rates are high at a point where people necessarily can't get approved for a home loan. So what's going to happen? They're going to want to go, they're going to have to go into the rental market, which for guys like me is fantastic. You know, it sucks for me for procuring the asset, but for the assets I already have, I know that I'm going to always have potential tenants.
Yeah.
You know, I put one of my properties up for rent. And there was like 20 people that want to see the unit, and this is in fucking Connecticut. Who cares about Connecticut? Connecticut sucks. But you know, that goes to show me that we're still in a strong rental market, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, so
but
so
you got to take it a step further though.
Yeah.
You got to ask yourself what separates you from that other real estate investor.
good point.
You got to always search for that.
Yeah.
Because most people, you know, there's a saying that my friend Rick Rule has. He says, never confuse brains with a bull market.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of people do. They get caught up in a bull market and they've got the Fed at their back, the quantitative easing, the money printing. They see their portfolio go up and they think they're a genius. No, it's not that you're a genius. You just happen to be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And so you need to really recognize that and then look around you, like I said, all the other people you know that are investing in whatever you're investing in and say, why am I better than that guy? Or why am I better than that girl? And I think one of the main advantages that you guys have that you leverage that you might not even realize is your network.
Yeah.
See, one of the things that Robert and I talked about quite extensively at Kenny's last live event called Limitless is the concept of starting with a network and refining that network down to a community, which is more a personal relationship. And then you refine that that community down to a tribe. You see?
Wow.
And when you get it down to a tribe, that's where you surround yourself with people like Robert Kiyosaki, like Ken McElroy, and that is a massive edge that will take your game to the next level because you're really the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself by.
And who better to have a tribe than our guys on the couch?
Yeah, shout out to them as well,
So
man.
very good fact
It's all
there.
about building tribes.
And now you got my mind thinking like, how am I gonna? So now I'm like, okay, how am I gonna improve my situation where I have an edge on other landlords in the same area in Southern Connecticut where I'm like competing.
One of the main advantages
network.
you guys have is, let's say there's 100 other Myrons out there doing the exact same thing you're doing, right? And again, you can't confuse the brains with the bull market.
Very true.
But what you have is you have access to Ken McElroy, to Robert Kiyosaki. They do not have that.
Yeah.
Right. And you understand how good these guys are. So you can dive into their content. You can read their books where all those other guys think
they know it all.
Yeah, they think they know it all.
Something else
Profanity, but they think they know it all. And they let their ego get in the way of learning instead of recognizing what they don't know.
But not only that, when I invested with Ken, I wanted to see who his tribe was. And the reason I don't trust real estate agents, they're sold. They do it by themselves. When I met Kenny, his partner is a banker and a builder. Do you know what I mean? He had talent. I mean, his accountant. He's got to have a great accountant. And so if you take a real estate license, you don't have a builder, you don't have a banker, you don't have an accountant, right?
That's right.
Because we go out as business people.
Yeah.
What did you say about your
team? Well, obviously building the team creates some momentum, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
And I actually think that all business, all real estate exists for me to go have a lot of fun. I don't actually think that I want to be in the business at all. I want all that to pay for my lifestyle. I want to be here during the week with you guys on the show while my business is running. That's what I believe it's for. So you can design everything around. The problem with a lot of real estate agents, as an example, is that they have to do everything themselves, right?
Yeah.
And they're an S in the, they're an S in the quadrant.
Yeah.
And the problem is that bandwidth only gets so much. They work a lot more, and then they get burnt out. They might be doing okay, but it's not a business. It's what we call a busyness.
So
I like that.
I just asked your point.
Check
So
out
good.
next, if you meet a guy like Kenny, check out his team. It's crucial.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
is critical.
It's everything for me. It's literally the reason that I don't have to be in Scottsdale, Arizona at this very moment, and speak at George's event tomorrow. That is the reason. I want to be able to do what I want to do and go where I want to go for as long as I want to go, and I want the business to produce for me.
Ken, what might be an interesting story is what you told me the other day about when you were managing properties, I believe. And you said that, and it kind of dawned on you that, wait a minute, I could be doing this exact same thing at a much, much higher level and increase my income 10 times, where I'm doing the exact same stuff, but I'm doing it with other people's money.
Yeah.
And you just kind of elevated your thinking.
Yeah, that's all. So I started in the property management business, as you know. And one day I was sitting there collecting rent, cleaning toilets, painting. My dad was a contractor. My mom was a hairdresser. And so, we did all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was fine. I was making an okay living. And the owner came in and, he's like, thanks, man, for, increasing the value, increasing the cash flow. And I'm like, man, I'm on the wrong side of the desk. Literally. It was like at that moment, that was it. I was like, man, okay, I don't know how, but how do I figure that out? And so that's when I started to, pursue all those other disciplines that I had no idea on how. So I had to learn how to find deals. I had to learn how to finance deals. I had to learn how to raise the money. I already knew how to do the property management, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know the legal or anything. And so I figured all that out, built a team around it. And, 20 years later.
So Kenny, we met today. Once again, can I call you? No, but very important, guys. Master key here. They're saying so many good things here, but one thing I took away from this is that, yes, you may know some things in life, but you need a team that knows what they're doing and that you can trust. That's very important.
Yeah.
But I only surround myself with people smarter than me. It's not their college degrees. Are they smarter? Like Sarah's with me, and my friend Bob worked with me. These guys are 10 times better than me. And most S's want to be the best. And that's why there's...
S stands for simp.
Simp.
Sorry, George. Sorry, George.
Sorry, Twitch. So that's why when that Karen came up to me, she leads off with, I have a master's degree.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a girl game right there for the strong and independent woman. They come up to you and think like, oh yeah, sorry, wrong sound effect. But anyway,
close enough.
Yeah, I fucked that one up. It's fine.
So
go ahead.
I want to ask a question real quick for the panel.
Yeah.
Guys, if you can go back in time, right? It's maybe when you're 17, 18, right? You're a young man, a lot of pep in your step. If you could give some advice to that person, what'd you tell them and why? And we'll start right here.
Oh, geez.
Success.
Start with Kenny.
Sorry, Kenny. To be successful.
I think the first thing is you got to unlearn whatever you've been taught to that point. Now, I mean that by your family or friends, and go seek out people that are really doing something, right? And that's what I had to do. And Robert says, who are your teachers? I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
because who you're listening to and what you're doing next is based on, maybe it might be based on something they read from a book. So, and I always remember, the best teachers, the best mentors that I ever had. And by the way, I haven't ever paid for any. I just sought out people. How did you do that? How did you do that? And would you do a cup of coffee or whatever? The other thing that I learned, I think was an aha moment for me. I was saving money like crazy. I didn't realize that is a liability for the bank. When people put money in the bank, it's actually a liability for the bank because they owe me interest. So the bank's in actually a precarious situation. They have to lend it. So once you start to realize that the banking system, pension funds, 401ks, all that money that is all going to all these people, it's a liability until it's invested. So once I realized that, that's money that I could use. I could use everybody, OPM, other people's money. Once I learned that, I was like, that's how the system is. You know, they take my paycheck, they put it in to the bank, and then the bank's like, okay, I need to lend it. Well, I can be on both sides of the equation. So those are the two things that I would look at differently.
Smart.
Yeah.
Robert?
Well, I flunked out of high school twice when I was 15 and 18 because I can't write. I thought that was interesting, you know.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But one of the, I didn't like school at all. So, but I learned a lot in Sunday school. And I'm not preaching it like this, but my teacher asked me this question because I always wanted to know about money. She says, why were the wise men wise? And naturally, I'm 7 years old, I raised my hand because they were rich. She goes, that's not it. So why were the wise men wise? Because they were rich. I said, they had frankincense, gold, and myrrh. They were rich. She goes, no. They always sought the best teachers.
Bam.
And that's when I was 10 years old. I met my rich dad. I said, he's going to be my teacher, not my dad. And so what you guys are doing is seeking the best teachers. And YouTube and all the social media gives us access to it. Let me say one more thing. It gives you access to the worst teachers also.
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't say that's bad either, because all coins have three sides: heads, tails, and the edge. And intelligence means standing on the edge and listening to both sides. So there's a couple of communists, of course, the school teachers, on YouTube. I choke every time I listen to them. But I listen to them because it makes my skin crawl. But I've got to listen to them. It's like I listen to Nancy Pelosi or AOC. My skin crawls. No, but do you know what I mean? I listen because I have to have an open mind.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And social media has given us access to both sides of the coins, good, bad, but you stand on the edge, and that's how you learn.
Wow.
I like that.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
I think I would say get your ego out of the equation.
Yes.
When I first became an entrepreneur, I had this opinion that I was invincible and that, my decisions were always going to be the best decisions. And that can actually get you quite far because you trust your decision-making ability implicitly. And so you're never second guessing yourself. You're never indecisive.
Yeah.
When you make a decision, bam, let's go. The problem is that's very easy to grow a company from 0 to about 10 million in revenue. But to grow a company from 10 million to 100 million, that's impossible if you have that mindset.
Yeah.
And I always did, even till the day I retired. And now what I've learned lately, as of 2019, the podcast really did this for me, is I have been able to, my life is so much better now, not just from a standpoint financially, but just the quality of my life, because I've opened up myself to not just getting to know other types of people with different backgrounds and different ideas, but I've actually found value in, and I've sought that out through the podcast by talking to anyone that I found interesting.
Yeah.
And what I've done as a result is it's just opened up my eyes.
Yeah.
And I've thought to myself, my goodness, George, if you only would have got your ego out of the way, and if you would have sought out others' intelligence and wisdom, you would have decreased your learning curve during that whole time that you were an entrepreneur. And maybe you would have been, instead of just, pretty much failing every single time you got a business up to 10 million in revenue, maybe you would have been able to take it to that next step to 100 million, maybe $1 billion, and I'd have a lot more money today than I do.
Wow.
And that's some fucking
That's guys.
great game right there from the three guys, man.
That's all you need, man.
Yeah.
Gems.
So going into a little bit more of a conspiracy theory thing, right? I gotta ask this question with all three of you guys here. We know that the Russian conflict has caused a lot of issues, right, in Ukraine. Whether it's supply chain issues, or are we going to lose the reserve currency, the oil and gas prices going nuts, everything else like that. I guess we can start. We kind of work our way this way. What are your thoughts on what's going on? Are we going to lose reserve currency status? Are we in a position where You know, because I see a lot of other countries like the Japanese yen, for example, has been
Tanking.
going down, tanking.
Collapsing.
A lot of Western Europe is in shambles. Germany's in a bad position. Spain is in a bad position for them. Someone was telling me like an electricity bill in Spain right now is averaging around 300 euros, which is wild.
Yeah, and the credit spreads are blowing
You know,
out
so even
too.
though here in the U.S. we're experiencing like, you know, crazy inflation and supply chain issues, it seems like other parts of the world are doing even worse.
Yep.
So from a geopolitical standpoint, what are your guys' thoughts on what's going on and how can people kind of prepare?
Well, so I think that's the number one issue is that they're afraid of losing that reserve currency because they can print and do whatever they want. So I think that underpins everything. The supply chain issues, I don't see improving for a while. Personally, I don't see how they're going to, you know, and so I do see pretty robust inflation. We're seeing it. I don't think that 8.6 is the right number, actually.
No, not even close.
You know, I'm seeing it in labor. I'm seeing it in all materials. I'm seeing it in my utilities. I'm seeing it in my property taxes. I'm seeing it in my insurance. I'm seeing it in everything. So, you know, it's definitely impacting everything on the, you know, the only thing saving our butt is that rents are going up too.
Yeah.
So, you know, but expenses are going up too.
Yeah.
So not as quickly. Obviously, rents, I think we're going to have some pretty robust rent growth here for the next couple of years because of the supply issue.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going. I think they're going to wrestle all the way to the end to not lose that reserve currency because why wouldn't you? I mean, you can basically pay off anything you want with just a stroke of the pen.
Yeah. What most people don't realize, if I could add to that,
please,
is global transactions between countries outside of the United States, about 60 to 70% of them are settled in dollars, especially with commodities.
Yeah.
Right. So the United States is in a very unique position when they can actually print the currency they need to buy the food, to buy the energy, if it comes down to that, where other countries have to earn dollars to take those dollars and then buy the stuff they need. So that gives us a huge, huge advantage.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
All I say is this, you know, all coins have three sides, heads, tails. Prepare for the worst. So if we go into a depression, how will you do? So long time ago, in Vietnam, I saw the North Vietnamese army kicking our asses, and I started preparing for the worst. So if the economy crashes, my question to all of you, how will you do?
Yeah.
Kenny and we'll get richer. That's why I have gold, I have silver, I have some Bitcoin, I have some Ethereum.
Yeah.
I have a business. I'm studying constantly. And this, so if it crashes, like the last time it crashed in 2008, Kenny and I went back in.
Yep.
We just waited a couple of years and we got richer. So the question is, let's say the worst happens, will you get richer or poor? And if you're going to get poor, I start making plans now to change something. That's all I want to say because, you know, I bought gold. My first gold coin was about $50. I still have it today. And they, you know, price of gold is dropping. I said, let's say it's $50 today. I mean, when I bought it, it's $1,800 today.
Wow.
Do you understand? But I think longer term.
Yeah, of course.
And I own gold mines. I own Japanese breeding bulls. I own oil.
Yep.
You know, they can't print oil. So everything the Fed does, I don't do.
Yeah.
Can you survive in the worst? That's the question.
I think to dovetail on what Robert was just saying, it would be wise to stress test your portfolio, even if it's 10,000, 25,000, 250,000, against the 1970s, against the 1940s, and against the 1930s. So just as an example, let's say you've got just a broad S&P fund or something like that. Well, look at what the S&P did during the 1970s. Okay. What did it do during the 1930s? Because you've got two deleveraging periods there. One was a deflationary deleveraging, and the 1970s was an inflationary deleveraging.
Yeah.
So if you look at your stock portfolio, and if it did very poorly in the 1970s, right, the S&P 500, then if you believe that the probability is most high that we get an inflationary decade in the 2020s, well, you got to adjust your portfolio. Right. And ideally, your portfolio, to what Robert was saying, would do well regardless of whether we went through a 1970s type of period or a 1930s type of period.
Yeah.
That's really the key. If your viewers and listeners can say, okay, what my portfolio would have at least not lost money, right?
Mhm.
Gained purchasing power during the 1970s and the 1930s. Then you're on to something right there. Another thing I wanted to point out, just an interesting story, is I spend a lot of time in Medellin, Colombia.
Mhm.
Now, Colombia right now, the peso is about 4,000 to $1. Right?
Holy shit.
And just
4,000 Colombian pesos is equal to $1 US.
$1.
Wow.
Right. So 5 pesos is basically worthless. I mean, it's not even a penny. And so I was talking to a good friend of ours named Dana Samuelson the other day, who's a gold dealer.
Mhm.
I was talking to him just randomly about gold coins.
Mhm.
He said, actually, I've got some Colombian gold coins that are 5 peso. I guess they had these back in the late 1800s.
Mhm.
So, and they were a 1/4 ounce of gold.
Oh.
So now let's think about this. Okay, gold right now is trading at
18,000.
1,800, something like that. Let's just say it's 2,000, right?
1,800 per ounce?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's just say it's 2,000 to make the math easy.
Yeah.
Okay, that 5 peso coin is now worth $500.
Oh, wow.
But in fiat currency terms, it isn't even worth a penny.
Yeah.
This is why everyone should own hard assets, and this is why everyone should own gold, in my opinion.
Perfect fucking example.
Wow.
Holy shit, man. And just so the people kind of understand, you said 4,000 Colombian pesos, about $1 US. Well, 4,000 Colombian pesos, what can you purchase in Colombia?
For $1?
Yeah, for $1. Just so people kind of get a
Same stuff,
perspective.
a bottle of water.
A bottle
or
of
something
water.
like that.
Okay.
What's it called? Aguardiente?
Aguardiente.
Yeah.
Versus in the US is going to cost you what, $3 to get a bottle of water, $2.50, $2 at least, $1.49 and the cheapest.
Yeah, but the point is you can't even buy 10% of a banana for 5 pesos.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
zero. But yet that gold coin, if you look at the gold value
Huge.
of it, it's $500 US.
And
Huge.
then that happened in the U.S. too. Remember the quarter with the silver in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Was it prior to 1965?
Yeah.
I
So
think.
if that quarter with the silver in it is actually he held up a $2 bill and a quarter, and the quarter was worth more than the $2 bill.
Yeah.
And that's U.S. money.
Yeah.
Because of the silver in it.
Yeah, because of the silver in it. So
That's one of the best examples I've heard of why holding on to precious metals is worth more than fiat currency.
Now you guys know.
Now you guys know. So
Yeah. When your
George,
bottom line there is,
oh,
if
what?
you're saving money right now, make sure that you're saving stuff that the Fed can't print.
Bam. So I got a question for you, George, because last time we had a discussion, we actually went over this portfolio that when you're saying like, hey, you need a portfolio that could withstand, it's volatile times like in the 40s, 70s, etc. And we outlined that portfolio
Yeah.
kind of like from a percentage standpoint. Can you tell the people what that was for people that are new and may not know?
Yeah, sure. I think it's very easy whether you've got 2,500 to invest or 25 million. I just set my portfolio up, or at least I try, in a 10-80-10 split. So 10% would be insurance.
Mhm.
For me, that's physical gold.
Yep.
Why? For the reasons we
Not
just
even
talked
silver,
about.
just straight.
Just physical gold.
Okay.
And then 80% of that portfolio is what I would consider an investment. Now, I define that as something that pays me to own it.
Bam.
So like the cash flowing properties that Kenny deals with and Robert, that is something that pays you to own it. That would be an investment. A dividend paying stock, that's an investment in my mind because it pays you to own it.
Yeah.
Then the other 10% of your portfolio would be speculative assets where you're buying them cheap. You're buying them when there's panic. And so maybe that could be Bitcoin when it's at 1,700. And unfortunately, people are, let's say, depressed, to put it mildly. What is it? Permanent solutions to temporary problems,
Yeah.
as Rich Cooper says.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's a bit of panic there. And I think that Bitcoin is a great example of something that would be in that speculative side of the portfolio because you may believe there's good asymmetry, but it doesn't pay you to own it. Another thing I really like right now is uranium.
Yeah.
I really like uranium. Again, I'm not telling anyone to buy it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely strong on my watch list. So
Bitcoin, maybe a stock that doesn't pay you a dividend you're just holding on to.
or maybe a gold miner.
Okay.
I think that would be something that I would consider a speculative asset.
Yeah.
So what you're doing there, and that's outside of your cash position.
Yeah.
Because your cash position is going to fluctuate based on your income and what you think the probabilities are that we have a recession, how much dry powder you want to have.
Okay.
Right? But so what that's doing is that gold position is offsetting the cash, right? 'Cause you're going to have a negative carry on cash because of inflation.
Yeah.
So that gold is kind of going to offset that over the long term, but also that cash flow that's coming in from that 80% is going to give you the purchasing power that you're most likely losing due to inflation with that cash position you're holding as dry powder to take advantage of those asset prices coming down.
Bam.
And it puts you in a position where you're never, ever, ever a motivated seller. So whether you're in real estate, whether you're in stocks, whatever it is, you never, ever want to put yourself into a position where you are a motivated seller. Never. And if you've got that cash flow coming in, like Kenny never has to sell.
Yeah.
Never. So he can just pretty much wait
It would hurt him to sell
and
at this
name his
point.
price.
Yeah.
If he ever wanted to sell, he can just sit back. Where a lot of his competitors, because they use too much leverage and they do all they base their number on pro forma
Fixing
numbers.
and flipping shit all over the place.
Yeah, they could get into a position where they don't have that cash flow to cover their nut, so they have to sell.
Yeah.
And so they pretty much the buyer can name their price, and that's where Kenny makes all the money on the buy side. He's buying from motivated sellers.
Bam.
So you never want to put yourself in that position.
So just a quick little recap for the people, because I think that's very important. 10% in gold.
For me,
Yeah,
this is what I do.
Or
This is
something,
what I do.
your basically your insurance policy, but an example of that would be gold.
Yep.
Another 10% in speculative assets that don't necessarily pay you to hold them.
Yep.
You know, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, etc. Stocks that you're buying and holding. Then 80% into something that pays you a dividend, whether that's real estate or a stock, and or even maybe hedging your cryptocurrency that pays you some kind of dividend to have it.
Would that include a business too? If I put
Absolutely.
It could,
Yeah.
yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
May I add this whole
Yeah,
thing?
please.
The word is cash flow, because that's why I created the board game Cash Flow. But I saw this one guy says, I'm pumping gold because I own a gold mine. I've also lost a gold mine.
Mm.
You know, I started a gold mine in China, and when I struck gold, the Chinese took it. So I now know country risk. But until they took this gold mine from Dalian, China, I didn't know that. But the experience made me smarter.
Mm.
So I just bought another gold mine in Utah, the richest gold mine in the world, 382 ounces per ton. My gold mine in China was only throwing 20 ounces per ton of gold.
Wow.
Now, the question is, how do I afford a gold mine? The money came from Kenny.
Bam.
Mm.
If
I'm about to
you
buy some gold after this.
understand- No, but if you understand what we're doing here, it's hard to see. But we're completely supporting each other to keep acquiring more and more. So because Kenny gave me the money to buy the mine, I give him 10% of the mine.
Would
To
you say
reinvest back in real estate to grow it exponentially.
Bam.
But no, please hear me, guys. The asset throws off cash.
Mm.
If it's not throwing off cash, it's not an asset.
Yeah.
It's speculative.
Mhm.
I have one last question from me. Just this is more personal than anything else. Y'all ever get bored? Because I get bored a lot, but that's just me. Do you ever get bored?
Yeah, but I try to make sure that I'm always pursuing something I'm passionate about.
Right.
And I was very lucky to stumble upon macroeconomics. And that really just did it for me. I mean, once I went down that rabbit hole, there was no going back. And now I'm just very fortunate to be in a position where I can talk about this stuff all the time and talk about it with smart young guys like you and guys like Kenny and Robert. And so one of my best pieces of advice, and I know it sounds cliche, but it's so true, that for the guys and the kids and the gals out there, if you can just follow your passion, and just really pursue it to 100% of your ability, and you get really, really good at that, you're going to get paid. You're going to get the girls. You're going to get everything as a byproduct of you being excellent in that one area. One thing that Roland and I were talking about yesterday that a buddy of mine really kind of opened my eyes up to when we were young and we didn't have 2 nickels to rub together in college. We were trying to sit there and figure out, how do you get rich? How is it that these people make money, and how is it that we're so poor?
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy says, you know what? I think what you have to do is look around and ask yourself, how many people can do what I do? And if the answer is very few, you're going to be rich. If the answer is a lot of people can do what I do, then you're most likely going to be poor.
Yeah.
So pursue your passion to a point where there's very few people on earth that can do what you do, and all the other stuff, again, will just fall into place.
Bam. I like it, man.
Light bulb.
You become
Networking.
an indispensable asset, and then they have to pay your price. You're becoming like essentially like you could look at someone like that's a brain surgeon. Not many people can do it, very few people, so that you basically, can say, this is what it costs,
Yeah. How many people can do what Kenny does?
Yeah.
Very few. How many people can do what Robert does? Probably nobody. Quite literally.
Yeah.
Quite literally nobody.
It's tough to be a
when
bull.
when he goes to do his next book deal,
Yeah.
he can pretty much name his price.
Yeah, they gotta pay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And something else too is because I went to military school. The first word we're taught at military school is mission.
Yeah.
And I ask people, what's your mission in life? I mean, what is worth giving your life for? And that's how we were trained.
Bam.
And so that's why I joined the U.S. Marine Corps. Although I had a high-paying job with Standard Oil when I graduated, I joined the Marine Corps for the mission to fight. And so today, the same mission is to elevate the financial well-being of humanity drives me. I have enough money, not the money. But the thing is that, so I'm looking for great people. Now I'm looking for partners who share the same mission. So I'm very happy to announce that Arizona State University and we're starting a program to teach entrepreneurship through college kids all over the world.
Wow.
So that's
fucking awesome.
mission
That's
driven.
huge. Finally.
Yeah. And the second thing is Prager University. I mean, they're always they're always taking off YouTube and all this stuff. They're my kind of guys, you know what I mean?
When you get kicked off YouTube, you're probably saying something that's right?
Right. So that's why I'm joint venturing a mission with them, a guy named Jordan Peterson and all that. We're educators.
Yeah.
So we're looking for bigger organizations. And then I just bought a place in Washington, D.C. It's a townhouse right next to the Capitol. And my roommate on the carrier in Vietnam, he and I are both lieutenants. And I got kicked out twice at disciplinary problems. But he became a lieutenant general, 3-star.
Yeah.
And then he became a congressman. And we made the best of friends. So he calls me up and he says, I got this townhouse for sale. And he turned him down. I said, it's a one deal. He goes, no, this is the mission. It's the word mission. He says, we're going to buy the townhouse right where all the rioting was.
Okay.
And he's a congressman. He says, we're going to turn it into the Rich Dad house. And then when you walk into the house, it's going to say the mission is to elevate the financial well-being of humanity.
Damn.
It's going to be a co-brand between Rich Dad and the U.S. Marine Corps.
Wow.
And so the reason it's important is because the house is so close to the Capitol that congressmen and senators can come and meet there. So it's going to be a meeting place, and then our books and things like that will be sitting there. And and my 3-star now congressman general friend will be talking to Congress and the influences of the world about how we elevate the financial well-being of humanity.
Yeah.
So we're mission-driven, not money-driven.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference of all.
And I'll tell you, man, that mission is definitely successful because, like I said before, I picked up your book in 2018. I'll never forget. I was in Laredo, Texas, about to move to Miami. And I was my first duty station on the Mexican border chasing after, narcos and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I read that book on my trip to Miami. And I was like, holy shit, this is like different. Because they don't teach you this in school and they don't teach you this in the government either. They tell you max out your TSP, put your $18,000 in there for a year, etc. And be ready in 30, 40 years, you're going to be a millionaire. And it changed the way I look at things. And, fast forward, 4 or 5 years later, and I'm sitting at a table with you talking about it now, and it's crazy to me. So the mission is definitely successful, my friend. So thank you for that. Cool. So I'll read these chats real fast, and they got to go to their conference, guys.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you guys coming by. This
we appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us
It's
on.
an awesome episode.
Michael Mayolo, I often hear buying gold/silver as a hedge for financial collapse, inflation. Should it happen in gold? Went to 10K. How would you actually use it? Would you sell your gold into dollars? Shout out to TWR.
No, because then you're going to have a tax event. So I just hang on to it to give to my kids. It's just to maintain I always say that you don't buy gold to get rich. You buy it to stay rich.
Amen.
Yep, that's 100% true.
Fucking awesome info. Brian Miller. There are specific multi-value quantitative strategies that magnify the benefits of diversification by exploiting multi-variations of value and a diverse array of market conditions. Combined with multi-factor value allocation can offer healthy risk mitigation and high-volume regimes.
Yeah, but Brian, that's exactly this. That's the same thing that LTCM said.
Holy shit.
Long-term capital management that blew up in 98.
Sounds smart.
Be mad. Please look at my previous super chats. I want to know their thoughts. Thanks. I don't know, but
we gotta go though, guys.
Chris said no, but yeah, guys, they got a conference they have to go to. Man, we stretched it as much as we can here.
Guys,
thank you guys
go
so much
follow
for
Ken McElroy,
Thank you.
Robert Kiyosaki, and George Gammon. Their links are down below.
Yeah,
this is fire, man.
Yeah, and check out George, tell them about the Rebel Capitalist
event,
please.
Well, it's probably too late to buy
It's
tickets
too old.
now.
Damn it.
Okay, never
but
mind.
if you're in the Miami area, you can probably still get tickets at rebelcapitalistlive.com.
Bam.
If not, we'll be doing one next year. And I'd strongly suggest checking out Kenny's event as well, which I just spoke at. Absolutely incredible. He'll be doing one next year. So that's Limitless.
Yep.
So definitely attend.
I think I'll be there.
Yeah, limitlessexpo.com. It's June 15th, 16th, 17th in Scottsdale. It's sold out last year, and we had 40 speakers all teaching. No sales.
Yeah,
no sales.
And I was there speaking. Robert was speaking.
Yeah.
It was an incredible event.
Yeah, so you guys better get your goddamn tickets. Go on there right now. We'll put the link below. Get your tickets. We'll be there as well. So if you guys want to shake our hand and everything else like that, and meet George and the crew, come on over.
And Robert, final
Let me
words?
complete the same sentence. What do we do with all this money? My wife and I are going to roll it into a foundation. We're not going to spend it. We don't sell. And that foundation will throw off cash forever.
Wow.
And it goes to support our mission after we're gone. We don't have to sell. What rich people do is they start foundations.
Wow.
Bam. Some more game for y'all, man.
Legacy.
There you have it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. That was hot. Shout out to our guy, Roland Tomasi, Sterling Cooper, and Justin Waller in the back chilling.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you guys back here with some lovely ladies in about an hour or two. Something like that.
9:45.
Okay, cool. So we'll be back, guys, with a 9:45 start time. Thank you so much. Like the goddamn video. Catch you guys back in a bit. Peace.
Peace.
Cheers.